Welcome back to the shop, everybody. If you are new here, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button below so you can keep track of all the awesome fab work that we do here inside the shop and the adventures that I get to go on with the vehicles that I build here inside the Big Tire Garage. Now, today's video is going to be all about this bad boy right here. This is my 2005 Toyota Tacoma that I call my adventure truck, and that's kind of fitting because I'm prepping it for the annual trip that we go on every year with my friends from Yukon Gear and Axle called the Adventure Trek. Now I have a few things I got to do. I'm actually going to be upgrading the rear axle in this truck, giving it a once over, prepping it for the trip, and then I'm going to tackle the bed of the truck because I'm trying to build this thing out to be the ultimate stealth camper. Looks just like an old school 4Runner or single cab Toyota Tacoma, but in the bed it's going to have everything that you need to live out of it for a long period of time. That way I don't have to have like a rooftop tent, a bunch of stuff. I can just have a nice small contained truck, have a lot of fun when I'm out in the dirt. So let's start by just giving a quick review of what this truck is all about. So if you don't recognize this truck, it is a 2005 Toyota Tacoma single cab 6-foot bed pickup that I built on my TV show FourWheeler. Now the whole idea behind this truck was to basically create, a truck that would pay homage to those classic Toyota 4Runners, the single cabs with the canvas top on the back. That's why I put that canvas bed on there. It's got an all-pro suspension system on it. It's still IFS up front. It has a set of 35s, it's got all-pro armor all the way around. And when I first bought the truck, it had a 4-cylinder underneath the hood, but on last Adventure Trek, I actually blew the motor in this truck, but it actually was cheaper to get rid of the 4-cylinder and modify this truck by swapping in a 2005 4.7 2UZ V8 out of a Toyota Tundra. The cool thing is I kept the manual transmission. Now the first thing that I'm going to do today is deal with a couple of maintenance items underneath the truck. I want to get the bed of this truck basically laid out before I go on this next trip. If you remember, I already put this overland kitchen setup in there when I did the frame replacement on this vehicle, and it's looking really good. I got my fridge on top of that. That's one of my smaller fridges, which would be perfect for 2-3 days in the wilderness. And basically, I think I'm going to put my pizza oven right in front of it while I'm driving. I'll basically strap it all down. But I want to add a few more things into the bed. I'm not trying to make a full-blown, quote-unquote, overlander. I just want this thing to be a little more comfortable than a tent that would be on the ground. I want it to be better than basically having to set up a tent, climb in it, and sleep. I just want to be able to stop, drop the tailgate, climb in the back, go to bed when I want to go to bed. Or I can set up the full kitchen, cook a full meal, and then pack it all away, and then go to bed. I do want to have power in the back. Now, I've already gone ahead and run power down from the battery, and I made an isolated circuit with a 100 amp circuit breaker up here. It's a resettable circuit breaker. So everything that goes on in the bed would be running through this circuit breaker. Also, that'll also allow me to turn it on, and when I'm parked storing it for a long period of time, I can simply just hit the circuit breaker and I don't have to worry about killing the battery with stuff in the bed, because I will have things back there like my fridge. I'm gonna throw one of my Jackeries back there. So I'll be able to charge my phone, have power, run a laptop, all that kind of stuff in the back of the truck if I want to. And then when I want to kill the power back there, I just hit that circuit breaker, good to go. Or if I'm driving, leave it on, and then it'll keep the fridge and everything cool in the back. Because of that, I need to add some power ports in the back. And I have one of these one of these power bank kits that I bought. And I have one of these basically power bank kits. I just get them on Amazon. Basically what it has, a couple USBs, and then it has a 12-volt power outlet. I'm going to basically make a plate on my plasma table to mount that in the bed. The goal here is to make everything modular. I don't want to build anything in to the back of this truck bed because although the outdoor kitchen setup is permanently mounted, I guess I could take it out. It's only 4 bolts, but I do really like where it's at right now. But these are the things that I plan to take with me on this trip. I'm going to take my pizza oven. Obviously, I'm going to have my fridge. I'm going to have my freshwater storage. Got this Dometic freshwater storage. I'm bringing a milk frother because Neil always jokes, that's Neil from Yukon, he always jokes that whenever we go camping there's no good coffee, so I'm bringing an espresso machine and the milk frother. I think I'm gonna, well, here's all the stuff that goes with my pizza oven. I like to use my pizza oven with the little wood pellets, but because there's a large group coming on this trip, I am gonna bring the propane burner for it as well. And then I'm gonna bring my big Jackery package, my big Jackery battery kit, and solar power. And then the idea here is everything in the bed of the truck, whether it's the fridge, or I'm actually going to be adding some lights in here, everything will just work off of a 12-volt plug that'll plug into this little power port right here. So I'll just plug it in here and I'll have my 12 volts right there. Or if I'm going to be camped for a long period of time and I don't want to drain the truck battery, I can just plug into the 12-volt power port on here and just use the Jackery battery. And that way I basically have 2 options. I also have these 2 Craftsman bins that I got a while back for another project that I was doing with Craftsman. Really haven't used them for anything, and I think this might be a really good time to use them. It's basically 2 drawers and this bin on the top. I think I'll be able to put a bunch of that stuff in it and basically just maybe strap it down into the bed somewhere. And then I need to figure out how to strap down this right here. So I think first step, it's going to basically be lay everything out where I think I'm going to need it and then go from there. So we'll start with that. We'll lay everything out, figure out where it's going to go, and then we'll see what it looks like. I actually think this is going to work out perfect. So what I have right now is on my shelf, I've got my pizza oven, I got my water storage tank, and I've got my fridge. And I just use these 2 ratchet straps to hold it down. And then over in here, I actually have my little espresso machine. Now, this is all, as I said before, modular, and I want it to stay modular because it's going to change on every single trip. Then I have my Jackery battery backup. So I'm going to take that with me. And then I'm going to use these 2 Craftsman basically containers. One's got 2 drawers in it, and one's just a bin. And I'll be able to put everything in there. So I'll put all the pizza cooking stuff up in this top bin. That way I can just take it out. And I'll just put anything else I need in this bottom bin. I may eventually figure out a way just to mount these things in here permanently. Oh, and then I also have a spot to wedge my solar panels, and the pizza stone will actually go in that same bag with those solar panels just to keep it good and safe. That's the one thing you got to watch out with those pizza ovens. As you can see, everything is attached. It's nice and strong. It's not going to come out of there. I can basically just slide it all back in. That basically locks into place, and that's the most important thing. I just don't want anything bouncing around when I'm driving. So this is going to be the perfect sort of like stealth camper overland setup for this trip. I think what I'll do is I'll try it out on this trip, and then I'll just make some notes, things I want to change in the future, and I'll show you those when we're out on the trip. But so far, I think this is going to work out really well. I'm going to have water storage, I'll have my espresso machine, which is actually only being taken as a joke for Neil. I got the pizza oven, I got the fridge, everything is going to be perfect, and I got a spot to sleep, and I got lots of storage in the back. So I think I'm going to do one last thing. I'm going to test the espresso machine with the Jackery to see how much power it uses, because believe it or not, those things are actually power hogs, and I want to make sure they got enough power to make a cup of coffees in the morning. Now the last thing that I want to do to the Tacoma is toss in a new rear axle. Now this may seem silly because the axle that's in there only has a few hundred miles on it since I've last changed the gear ratio in it. But as I fall more and more in love with this truck, I want to eliminate any possible weak links that can come up and bite me in the future. And the rear housing in the Tacomas, they're known to bend under serious off-road abuse. Now yeah, you can add trusses to it and a bunch of stuff, but on a recent trip to see my friends at Dynatrac to make some video content for them, when I was there, I saw this sitting on the shelf. And I knew these were out there, but I wasn't sure if they were still building them. This is a 100% bolt-in upgrade for the Toyota Tacoma series pickup trucks. Now what it is it is a Dynatrac Pro Rock 60 center section. So we got the Dana 60 gear in here. We have the center section that gives us additional clearance. It is a high pinion axle that gives us more ground clearance for our drive shaft. But at the same time, it is 100% bolt-in for the Tacoma. It has Tacoma bearing ends on either end, which means I retain my factory ABS sensors. I retain my factory brakes and e-brake cable. I can obviously reuse my wheels. It comes with the spring pads already welded into place with the correct alignment geometry for our high pinion gear set, as well as the shock mounts. This is basically plug and play. You bolt it in and away you go. And any possible issues that you ever had with the rear axle in your Tacoma, you don't have to worry about them anymore. We now have more ground clearance for the drivetrain, a stronger third member, the choice of locker that you want. I ended up just going with another Grizzly locker because that's what's in the back of this thing already. I really like that mechanical locker, and you can spec custom width. I had them add a little bit of width, so I'll be able to ditch those wheel spacers that I have on the back of the truck. And that's another weak link area that I was kind of worried about. I'm not a fan of wheel spacers, and so to be able to eliminate those plus upgrade the rear axle, this thing is going to be great. I can't wait to get this in and try it out on this trip that we got planned. So once this is in, pretty much truck comes off the lift, take it for a test drive, throw it on the trailer. axle in, originally I thought I was going to have to get a new custom length drive shaft, but it's actually looking like, because that flange is no longer on there, I actually save a little bit of distance on that shaft. So it may actually work. I may just have to put what's called a flip-flop joint or a bastard joint or a combination U-joint, because the Tacoma uses a 1330 and my new drive shaft uses a 1350. But the only way to know that is to basically measure it. So I think what I'll do is I will throw the tires and wheels on it. I'm actually going to take the drive shaft completely out, because I'm going to have to put a new U-joint in it no matter what. I take the drive shaft completely out, throw the tires and wheels on it, lower this thing down, then I can measure it under the weight of the vehicle. Technically, the distance shouldn't change where it's at right now, whether it's up in the air or down, because this leaf spring obviously doesn't move. This swing shackle moves, so if anything, the differential should go back when the axle compresses, because that swing shackle should swing back. But the only real way to triple check is to actually put a tape measure on it. So I'll take the old drive shaft out, get it over onto the fab table in case I have to shorten it, and then we'll throw the tires and wheels on the thing, lower it down, see what the new ride height looks like now that I've adjusted those front springs at the same time. My main concern with the rear drive shaft is that it actually might be too long, and then it might bottom out when the suspension cycles, and that's a bad thing. It can actually break a transfer case or even a transmission. So what I've done is I've measured the suspension movement underneath the truck at all of its cycles, and then I basically fully compressed the drive shaft on my fab table with a ratchet strap and measured it. And I still have 2 inches of plunge in the shaft compared to the truck. So that means that I have plenty of travel in the shaft. I'm happy with that. So what I'll do is I'm just going to go ahead and install the combination joint. It converts a 1330 to a 1350. I'll install it in the truck, and I'll just keep an eye on it on this first trip out. But I'm fairly confident this rear drive shaft is going to work. All right, so I road tested the truck by basically taking it once around the block, throwing it on the trailer, and then about $500 of the diesel fuel, a few thousand miles later, and 1 trailer tire. This is where we are right now. We are at Let's Roll Off-Road, just outside Phoenix, Arizona, getting ready to go on the Yukon Adventure Trek. Now, the Adventure Trek is a trip that we do every single year. Well, we didn't do it last year because just as timing issues. But basically what it is we have a different leader every year, just a good group of guys get together, a little bit of camping, a little bit of light four-wheeling, just some mild off-roading. And so this is a perfect test of the Tacoma after those little upgrades, as well as that new Dynatrac axle in the back. So, what I will do is I'm going to track this route on Onyx Off-Road, and that way if you guys want it, you can run it, and when we're all said and done, it's gonna be pretty cool. This year's Yukon Adventure Trek started in Phoenix, Arizona, and then headed south towards the mountain range just outside of Tucson. And it was a great time. 3 days in the dirt with some of the greatest people that go on this trip every single year. I'll put a link to the trip video in the description below so you can see what happened on the trip, because it was a lot of fun. And the most important thing is that Tacoma did great.